new to this, welcome. We do this every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as just an extension of value from our team to you and yours, so that you guys can level up your free jet performance and produce the best possible products. So again, every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to do these coaching sessions with you. A lot of you have been asking for the recordings to the past versions. We are working on them. We are working on getting them edited down. We're going to upload them into YouTube playlists. But generally speaking, those are on a little bit slower of a production cycle because we like people to anticipate showing up here live. So one thing, if you've been to these, I wanted to call out. So you'll notice a lot of people here are on video. That's intentional. We sent every one of our customers a Zoom invite to become a panelist so that you guys could engage visually with us as well. Previously, for attendees, you guys are still able to talk when we tag you in during the Q&A session, but you weren't able to be on video. So go back and check your emails if you don't have, if you can, to check for the panelist link. And then on sessions going forward, just join as a panelist. That way you can engage and interact live with us too. So one request though to people on video, panelists who will have audio activity, just know that this is a live session. And so just be cognizant of your surroundings in terms of what's in your background video wise, what you got going on audio wise. And if any of you guys want to tag in and for part of the Q&A, which we'll have here at the end, we'd love to have you guys have your video on so that we can see your faces and engage with you. Part of the value here is just developing relationships with all of you as well. So as customers here. So I think Edsel, introduce yourself for the people who haven't seen you before.
Sure. For those of you who haven't seen these, my name is Edsel Barrios. I've been working here for Omniprint for 4 years. I've been doing DTG for about 12 years now. I do this at home as well. Just like you guys, I have the machine, I have it at home, and I go through all the same stuff. So throughout those 12 years, I've been able to build up a lot of knowledge, and now I just want to give it all to you guys.
Awesome. Well, Edsel, we appreciate you being here. I didn't even introduce myself. My name is Ryan Wood. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Omniprint, and my job is to support you guys, our customers, and give you the best value that we possibly can to make sure that you guys are printing the best products that you possibly can using the entire FreeJet line, all of our pre-treatment lines, all of our ink lines, all of that stuff as well. So we're going to spend the next 20 to 25 minutes going through and giving you guys some knowledge, talking specifically about platen usage in the context of your FreeJets. So Edsel, I'd love to just turn it over to you, my man.
Sure, definitely right. Let's get started. So I got a couple plans here that I'm going to show you guys and kind of explain to you when you're going to want to use those. Some of you guys may not have these, and you may have already ran into maybe some loading issues if you only have, the adult plan, which is what comes with it. So again, this is the adult plan. This is the one you do get with, with the equipment. This is actually a slightly different alternative that I wanted to show you guys. This is same exact size. The only difference here is how it's built at the bottom. If you guys look at the bottom, the whole bottom side is completely different. And we call this pretty much a threadable platen. This platen basically will allow you to actually open up your shirt and just slide one piece of the fabric on there, whether it's the back side or the front side. Now, the reason these are useful is when let's say you're printing a polo shirt. If you try to print on the back of a polo shirt, these buttons are going to be sticking up right here because you're forced to put it on top of the regular platen. With the threadable, at that point, you're able to just slide the whole back piece underneath, and then now you have a nice complete surface area, flat area. This works great for also like V-necks, anything that's like a real low cut t-shirt, women's shirts. Anytime you flip it to the backside, that collar always sits on top and it starts to pop up. And that's another thing when you're dealing with these alternative garments, it'll make it much easier as a setup when you're using these alternative platens. One that I see all the time is when you're printing a hoodie. One of the things with a hoodie is, you got this pocket down here, and this pocket area is much thicker than, obviously the area you're gonna be printing on the chest. So one of the things that I'll do with this is I try not to use the adult platen. If you slap this on here, you're gonna see the pocket is gonna sit on top. And the next time when the head's printing, it's done printing, it's gonna get to this area, and you could get a head strike, on these. And it's a very common thing to happen. It happens all the time. The distance between the head and the actual platen is very, very small. So even this seam, the pocket, anything that pops up will give you some issues So that's one thing you always want to keep an eye out. I don't like to use the adult platen just because that gets in the way. So one thing that I do use is the youth platen. The youth platen is a little bit smaller, and it'll allow you to actually drop your whole pocket out the way. Now when you dress this on there, you're just gonna have your chest area, and then you're able to just get the whole pocket out the way. So this one happens a lot. This youth one, I have it at home. I use it for those hoodies. I use it for kids' clothes. That's another one. I just had a call with a customer who, saying he was having issues with kids' clothes, but not with the adult clothes. And it turns out he was trying to slap a 3T shirt, which is obviously a very small shirt, on top of the adult platen. And what that happens when you do that, you're gonna leave a whole bunch of seams everywhere, the collar, you're gonna leave the bottom seam. And when you come into your auto height, that's where things, can go south. Sometimes people, when you do the auto height, just because it's called auto height, it doesn't mean it's gonna be perfect every single time. What the auto height does is it scans what you lay down. So if there's a little bump here, the laser will detect it and will push your table down lower. And sometimes it can be much lower than it really needs to be. So sometimes people put seams on there, zippers, pockets, things like that. And you may think, oh, it's not that thick. It shouldn't give me an issue. It should scan it just fine. But the laser will detect that and push your table down much lower. And when it sits too low, that's when you start to see that overspray. You're on your prints, you may see overspray or may look blurry. It's very similar to how I explain. I usually explain like with a spray can. Imagine you have a spray can, you're going up to a wall, and you're less than a foot away from the wall. You can spray paint. You're gonna get a nice streak of paint. Now imagine if I was 10 feet behind, away from that wall, and I'm trying to spray, it's just going to be a large cloud, of ink that's going to be spraying around. Same exact concept comes in when you're setting up the height for your platen. You want to make sure it's super flat. Anytime you're dealing with hoodies, even this polo, if I wanted to print on this pocket area, and if I just try to lay this down on my adult platen, these buttons will get in the way. And your worst thing is to get a head strike, rub on them. It can really do some damage. For smaller items like that, like I use our small little chest infant platen. This is a 6x6, and you're able to just wrap your actual just pocket area in here, and then drop all your buttons out of the way. So this is a very useful one that I use a lot. I even used it in the past for masks, little alternative shirts, little things that you just cannot fit on the youth either. This is the guy that I always want to be using. And one of the things about this is it saves you a lot of setup time. Sometimes I'm trying to sit there, tuck in a shirt, it's not going all the way in. I have bumps, I have seams, I have buttons. And then next thing you know, it's been 5-10 minutes of you just sitting there trying to set the shirt up. When you have the right platens, you're able to just slap it on there, slap it onto your printer, and then get started. So it does speed things up for you as well when you have the right plan whenever you're printing on certain items. Tote bags, I get a lot of tote bags. A lot of people want to print on tote bags. Same thing. I like to use this youth plan. It's nice and small. I'm able to wrap the whole bag around there. Sometimes with the larger plan, you're not able to get it wrapped all the way through, and then all those little bumps, all that stuff will give you some issues. So it is very important. The distance between the head and the plan is really about 2 to 3 millimeters, and about anything higher than that, 4 or 5 millimeters, you will start to see some overspray issues. So that's one thing. Just keep that in mind whenever you're working with these type of items. Try to use these alternative plans. If you don't have one, look into them, especially if you're always seem to be doing these type of shirts, hoodies, bags, things like that. If you want to get into that, it'll be a much easier process when you have the right plans for this stuff. So that's the youth one. Really good one. That one's a 10x13 size. We have a couple of other ones I'm sure you've seen around. Half platen. This is another one we have in here if you want to be able to print on hats on here. So it's a cool little one, extra little thing that you're able to add to your business. and they come out great. Opens up, lay your head on there, clamps back down. Then you have a nice flat surface on this one. So it is a nice little plan that we're able to use on this, and they come out great. All of these, especially with the half line, they'll take some practice. You know, I always tell customers practice. Check your corners. There's a one thing that I see a lot is I see a height issue, and the first thing I tell them is, "Hey, your height is set too low." But then their response to me is, "Well, I did the auto height." Again, the auto height is only going to give you a good height adjustment if you lay down everything flat. There's a little bump, there's a little seam, there's a little button on there. It will, detect it and then push your table down a little bit lower than it needs to be. So always look out for that stuff. One of the things that I like to always check, and I see this happen quite a bit, is when you're putting on, let's say, a shirt, even a hoodie, you tuck the collar in, and I'm sure you guys have seen that the tag will actually stick up, right? It'll stick up, and that's one thing that I've seen it stick up here. The laser comes and scans and actually detects this tag and then pushes it down, right? Even though you did everything flat, but this little tag, in there. It's done that to me plenty of times, and I've seen it happen a lot with customers. So, always keep that in mind. Things to avoid that you want on your that you don't want on your plan is buttons, seams, folds, zippers, things like that. It will, even though it may not seem that thick, it will be thick enough for this to push the table all the way down, and then start to give you a little bit of issues with your print quality. We also have the what we call the zipper platen. So sometimes you're trying to print on zipper hoodies. That zipper in the middle is thick sometimes. So one of the things we did is we actually have these plates lifting up the sides, so that way when you lay down your zipper, it actually sits a little bit lower in the center. So again, it's a little help that you get, helps you out again, avoid those nasty head strikes, helps you avoid some of that stuff in there. So on these, a little bit of an extra again, if you're not printing too many zipper hoodies, you may not really need this one, but this is a great attachment for anytime you're doing zippers. So I have one here. As you can see, it's pretty thick. The zipper can be thick. I do always, after I pre-treat it, once you press it, it does get much flatter. But some hoodies just have a much thicker zipper than others. So kind of always keep that in mind. I can already tell just laying it down here, it's pretty flat. And again, that's just because of this little indentation that I have here that allows me to push, this zipper lower. So I am, able to just tuck it in after that. Nice and flat, push all the way through. They'll ask me about all this extra stuff, especially with hoodies. When you're tucking this stuff in, don't just start jamming it in. If you just start jamming it in there, it's gonna get stuck, it's gonna get bunched up. So take your time. Actually, just kind of fold it in, nice and neat. That way, it doesn't, it doesn't start to bunch up. Push it all the way through. Now the front side, they'll ask me about the front side here. This front side, I can let this hang in the front. The gantry, will never actually reach that side. So if you need to, sometimes I do just let it hang a little bit here. One thing though, if you do let that hang, is just make sure it's not, this fabric isn't sitting above your platen. So go ahead and just tuck it in real good. Even on the back side, if you notice, I have it hanging right here. I can tuck it in if I want underneath. But again, the gantry just is gonna slide over it. We're not gonna have any issues. Fabric there. Sometimes, it could be a lot of fabric, especially once you get into the 3Xs, the really huge sweaters, it can get really difficult to try to tuck it in there. All right. Slide back out. Another thing I always recommend customers to check with these platens is your level. It happens a lot where people have their platen on here and they're stacking things up here. People are leaning on it all the time, and it happens a lot. And eventually this will not be level. So you always want to make sure, trying to stack too many things on this stuff. It happens a lot. People are stacking them over, stacking things on top. They get a little beat up and then things, aren't leveled correctly. So always check it. One of the ways we'll check it is just lay it down somewhere flat. And what you can do is we'll just use a ruler. A ruler works, a bubble level works, but a ruler will just measure from the bottom all the way up to the top. Measure all four corners, make sure they're all the same distance. I've seen plenty that sometimes, the front is really low, the back is higher, or even the opposite way, or even side to side. So if you ever notice you're getting maybe overspray on one side, there's just the front, the back, left to the right, you're gonna want to check the level of this flat. So always check it. For the most part, again, if you're taking care of them pretty good, they shouldn't go out of level. But I've seen it plenty of times. It happens here at demo room. Salesmen are sitting there talking, they're just leaning on it, and then eventually it can get a little, beat up there. So we do have adjustment screws on these. So if you notice on top, you got some screws here, and you are able to tighten these up, and it drops the table down, loosen it up, brings it, right back up all the way over. So. And again, double check those. It happens sometimes. And the last thing you want is really get a head strike or even start ruining a shirt, because of it just not being right. One of the other things that we always want to check in here is, and I'm gonna go over here to my screen share. People will ask us for the settings on how to set up these plans. One of the things you'll notice is all of these platens are perfectly centered. They're all pretty much centered exactly where they need to be. The sleeves, the youth, they're all in the center. So whenever you load up your image, I'm just gonna load anything I have here. And whenever you load up your image, you can go in here. Let's just say I'm printing this on a black shirt. All we have to do here is hit top center. Again, all of these are top center. The only thing we'll have to look at is just make sure we don't print bigger than what our plan is. This is a 6 by 6.5. So if I was printing, let's say this on a pocket, I'd come in here, size up my image. Let's just say I only wanted a pocket print 4 inches. I'll print preview it. And then, it shows me it's going to print on top. Again, all of these are perfectly centered on the top. So no matter which one you're using, whether it's this one, the youth, the sleeve, all of these will be perfectly loaded. They're perfectly centered right on this base. So all you have to do is hit top center. In this case, don't make it bigger than 6 by 6 on this guy. This guy's a 10 by 13. It's the same thing. If I was printing on this one, I just hit top center. And let's just say all I want my image to be 9 inches across, print preview. Now I have it set up for the bigger youth plan. So we do, set it up at top center. They're all set up right there, and we are able to fire them up.
Hey guys, real quick here, Edsel. So, guys, I want to be clear about something. So, for everybody attending, we are here to give you guys value out of the time of our day to support you guys as customers. So we want to hear from you in the chat. If you've got feedback on how to make the show better, that's great, but we're not going to allow the chat to become a negative environment. So we know people want to see Edsel printing live. We want to print live. We're going to do that. We've had the direct treater dual in there. We were pre-treating live in the studio, but again, if you got feedback, that's great. You can email me directly at ryan@omniprintonline.com if you've got some feedback on the show. I'm happy to take that in advance. But please, again, keep all the comments positive in the chat. And let's just have some fun. Go ahead, Edsel.
Cool. Well, basically, this is how we're always going to be, setting this guy up top center. Just make sure your images are not bigger than the actual plan you're working with. And you really, then you won't be able to miss, these areas. Always, like I said, check your height, check that stuff. Although it seems like the easiest thing, I would say that's probably one of the most common mistakes that gets done whenever using these plans is just making sure you lay everything flat, whenever, and then that way, when you do your auto height, it does give you the perfect scan, and then you don't have to worry about, getting either a head strike or even getting overspray, all the way through it. So And one of the ways, I think someone had asked Photoshop templates. Someone asked about Photoshop templates. We don't have them for the singles, though we have them for the duals. So some of you guys may have these in duals. So that's another thing is we have this version in what we call a dual platen. So it'll actually have one here and it'll have a second one here. So you're actually able to go through it and do two at a time. So we do have those dual ones. If you do happen to have the dual ones, give us a call. We actually have templates for those. Then you're able to actually just drop them into Photoshop, drop them in to your place where you need to, and then just bring them in print ready on them. We'll go through there. Maybe I think I want to go through a couple of these questions, Ryan, that I think some of these guys have, and
Sure. Yeah, we
go
got
from there.
you. Let me give you a couple here real quick from Trudian. Trudian's having some trouble getting in. First one for you, Edsel. By the way, Edsel, is your lesson? Are you done with your?
Yeah, I want to cover. Yeah, definitely. I also want to cover some of these things.
Yep.
That the attendees want to ask some questions about. I want to make sure everyone gets an answer there.
Yeah. So let me get you one from Trudian. So Trudian, this isn't entirely related to the Platen discussion, but she says, I need some word definitions in the environments. What does media actually mean in the photo environments? And along those same lines, what does printing background refer to in the printer options?
Whenever we're profiling, when we first start to set up these profiles, the profiles are basically how the rip, translates the color and then prints it over here. When we're doing that, we're actually going through it and telling the rip what we're printing on. For example, for the garment color, you'll notice if you pick, your black environment, after you go into the print setup, it'll say the media is black or cotton. That's another one is every time we're profiling each one is different. So for blacks versus dark, shirts, it prints different. So when we profile them, each one has a different setting for either a light, a dark, or a color garment. So, and then again, that's just part of when we first set it up. When we first set up all this stuff, we got to go through printing, thousands and thousands of these little color swatches, and you have to scan through all of them and do all that stuff. So that's actually part of the setup when we first started it.
Good stuff. And by the way, everybody, you guys have amazing questions, and I can see them in the chats. One way, I want to make sure we get to as many as we possibly can today, but in order for those to stay organized for me, do me a favor, and either one, if you want to come on live and ask a question, click the raise hand at the bottom of the screen, like right over here on your screen. Click that little raise hand button. That's going to allow you to raise your hand and get tapped in. Or two, if you're not comfortable coming on screen, that's cool too. Just post it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. That way we can make sure all of the questions are in one spot and we can start addressing them. All right, that's anything else that you wanted to go through on that?
I think for right now, I think that should be, I want to, get into a little bit of the Q&A, I think, and kind of go through some of that there.
Okay, cool. I'm going to start tagging some folks in. Let me go through a couple of the written Q&A questions here. How do you use the sleeve platen? It seems the seam on the other side gets in the way. That's from Kimani.
One thing with the sleeve, try to get it as flat as you can, for that, because some of them do have a really thick seam. I've seen that plenty of times, and when you go on there, slap it on there, it could get in the way. Now, if you press it, long enough, you may be able to get it nice and flat. In fact, I've done it to the point where once you press it, it's flat enough where it shouldn't get in the way. But I'd say that's the best way right now, is to really just get it nice and flat to be able to slap it on there without having any issues, especially with the height. But that one is a little bit more of a difficult one, just because of the way the seam splits, and especially if you're trying to do it directly down the middle, then the actual seam is right below that. So give it a nice good press, and I think you should be able to do it. We've done it here plenty of times, just by giving it a nice little press, and then being able to clear the height. Just check for any bumps, anything that looks like it's really thick and really heavy, and that way you don't really run into any height issues or even head strikes on that stuff.
All right, thank you, sir. By the way, are people reporting that they're having trouble writing into the Q&A part? I'm not sure why. It works every week for us. So if that's you, if you're having an issue there, just click the raise hand button and let's get you patched in live. That seems to be working Working just fine for us. I'm going to take another one here from Tyler. And then Jamel, I'm going to go patch you in here live. So just 1 second. From Tyler, though, Edsel. Hey, Ryan, quick question about previous sessions. Will they be boosted? Okay. Yes, Tyler, they will be posted to YouTube eventually. We are not there yet. We're working through that. Edsel, this is great. I noticed that you added the hoodie on the side on the zipper platen. Do you need to churn your graphic as well?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So one thing you notice is like we did have to load it back, to the side. So you will have to rotate your image, and I'll share my screen real quick here so you guys can see that. You're gonna want to go to image, rotate counterclockwise. Now, if your collar is on this side, you have to rotate it clockwise. It almost flips like a 180. So just kind of keep that in mind. That way you don't flip it to the wrong way, and then the image is upside down. So unless your computer's, in the back, the machine, then things will be facing the correct way. Most people, I think, have it in the front. So just remember, the image does a 180. So you want to, whenever it's on this side, you don't want the top of your image basically, facing this cursor, facing the right side of your screen. So remember, it does a 180 on there. So just kind of keep that. But yeah, you will want to rotate that and adjust, just your margins from there.
All right. All right. Let's go into a couple more. All right. Jamel, you are going to be patched in, my friend. Why don't you go ahead and unmute?
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm great.
Good, man. Welcome.
So, thank you. So for my questions, I have two actually. I'll make it real quick. The first one, so we haven't used our machine since we've gotten it. Every time we try to put it on, there'll just be one problem, and problems over problems. One problem we're having is it keeps saying we're low on ink, but we have ink, a lot of ink already. So that's one problem. And the other one, our print head isn't working at all. It's not printing. Whenever we try to do nozzle check, it wouldn't print.
All right. I'll talk about the first one real quick. The first one is the ink message or the ink light that you guys see on your machine. But so I'll kind of explain that because I think a lot of people are confused about what that actually does. So the machine right now, since we're using those the Epson driver and all that stuff, it still thinks we're using these little cartridges, right? These little baby cartridges. So at one point, it thinks that it ran out, but we actually have a system in here that pretty much resets it, sends a signal, and then resets it. I think the issue here is that when the light is red, so I think it alarms people whenever it goes off. It's a red light. Then underneath it says ink, but it never has anything to do with your actual ink level. It just means internally it's resetting one of these ink chips that it has inside. So, and if you notice, I'm sure you notice, the light goes off. You'll notice you're full of ink back there. You don't need any ink. As you keep printing, the light will turn off. You'll notice quick it'll turn off, and then guess what? Later on, it'll turn on again, on and off. So that light actually turns on and off throughout the whole entire life of the machine. But again, it never means you're out of ink. It also will never affect how the print, the print quality. It basically is just like an internal signal that it's resetting. But unfortunately, they made the light red. So I think sometimes, people get alarmed from it. You'll also get a light up here. You'll notice when that light turns on, you'll get a light up here. Eventually, it said it'll reset. Then all of a sudden, you'll notice it's off. Then later on, it's on and off. So that that goes on and off throughout the life of the machine. But again, it never really has anything to do with the print quality or your actual ink levels. It's just literally an internal signal that it's basically resetting. Your second question about the print head, we'd have to go through diagnosing it, and checking out what's going on with it. I guess there's a lot of different things that can be going on. But I'd say send us your info. I'll get the tech manager to follow up, and I'll have one of the techs follow up with you, because that one will require us to go through some diagnosing, kind of figure out where the blockage is at.
Yeah, I'm also curious, Jamel, where did you buy your printer from, or the one where the head isn't working, or where did you buy that printer from?
We bought it from Omniprint. directly from Omniprint.
Directly, got it. And who was your rep?
I spoke to somebody. I don't know. I got to go back into the email.
Okay. Well, obviously, we want to make sure that that's taken care of because that is very uncommon. All of our units are completely QA'd from head to toe before they leave our facilities. So your units being delivered, it is 99.999% of the time that doesn't happen. So we take that very seriously though. So make sure that you email support@omniprintonline.com and submit that ticket. And we want to make sure that we get on that ASAP. We take that very seriously. All right. Okay, cool. I'm going to go to a couple more live ones here from some of our panelists. Let's go with Terrence.
Hello.
What's up, Terrence?
What's up, man?
Man, so happy to have you back.
Yeah, man, I'll be on it. I got two things. One, if is some advice wrong with the people having problems with the templates, because the patterns, that's what I was having at first. I talked to a tech yesterday. It's best to use the templates that's set to the adult platen and then take the diagram of the templates for the platens off and print it that way, because it'll print exactly how it's supposed to go versus using the environments that's set for the platens. It's kind of difficult because there's a whole bunch of stuff you got to do, and that's what I was bumping into, where the design would be outside of the part on the RIP software. So since then, I haven't had any problems. Only problem I'm having now is my red looking orange and my white looking kind of grayish, and I'm trying to figure out how to fix that.
I see. All right, and just so that you guys, I guess what he's referred to real quick is basically a Photoshop, template or canvas size in Photoshop where you make it the size of the flat. So let's say in Photoshop I'm working with this guy. 6 by 6.5 is the size. So then I would open a file in Photoshop at 6 and 6.5, right? So then, or even the full size, what he's referring to, also the adult size. He's basically doing 12.5 by 18 and then placing his image in there. And basically what that's doing is when you bring it into the RIP, you won't have to set up margins. You kind of already set it up in there, and you won't have to go in there and drop it down 2 inches, etc. Going through that. One of the things with that is though, whenever you want to, let's say, make that image bigger, you then have to go back to Photoshop, resize it, save a new file, and then bring that in to the RIP. So when you do it in this method, you're kind of stuck with that fixed size. Unless you go back to Photoshop and do all that. If you're a Photoshop guru, then that stuff is easy. You'll be able to do that very quickly. But that's what he's referring to, basically bringing in the image position and print ready based on Photoshop size.
All right, Terrence, we're gonna move on to the next one, man. Thanks for being here again. Next year we're gonna go to Nathaniel Simmons. How you doing, man?
How you doing?
All right. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to the whole Omniprint team. I've been with the Omniprint for a while. Went to the shows.
Awesome.
My rep is Art. He's a great guy. I just had Warren and Alex on the tech. I had to change my pump, but great staff and great customer service. I give 5 stars.
Thank you.
We'll pass that along.
Definitely, always. So with the youth platens, what size are they again?
The actual youth is a 10 by 13. So this is a 10 by 13. This is what, like I said, the one that I like to use for the hoodies, kids t-shirts, stuff like that. And then if you want an even smaller one, you're looking at the 6 by 6.5. So again, I use this one mostly for pockets, little really small items. The other day I got these wedding handkerchiefs. They were super small. I couldn't do them on the other plant, so I had to slap it onto this. So real good one. So 6 by 6.5, and then this was a 10 by 13.
Okay, so the 6 by 13, that's the one you could cut the shirt, right, for both sides? like so you're able to print on the opposite side. You know how you thread it. That's
Oh, I
what I mean.
rotated
Thread
it?
it. Yeah, like
I
you thread
rotated.
it.
Oh, well, to thread it, so we also have that option. You know, earlier I showed you the threading option.
Thread one,
You know,
okay.
the threading one, you know, you open it up, you save it, but we also have this one as a threaded option. You know, so if you're looking for this smaller one to be threaded, it's also available in that option as well.
Okay, last question. So with the with pre-treating the youth shirts, when I first bought my machine, I got the plus, the 230 plus.
Mhm.
They recommend I got the pearl, but so pre-treating, what you do, spray, you use the hand spray for the smaller shirts, or is it I wish it had an interchangeable platens for the pre-treat, because you know with the seams and everything, it's like pre-treating the whole shirt if you go smaller than a delt.
Yeah. So one thing that because I have the pearl and I have the open pearl for mine originally when I bought my machine. One of the things that I'll do is I actually have this sort of, and later on I ended up making a nicer plate out of it. But basically what you want to do is you want to raise your shirt up, right? And that way, so kind of let's just imagine I slap this on top of my pearl. You know, now it's sitting up higher, so instead of it spraying, you know, now it's just
Okay.
gonna hit a little bit
I
more.
got
Here.
you.
So one of the things that I did at that time is I just had like a little box, you know, like a little box that I had right there, and then I put the shirt on there. The box elevated, you know, the shirt,
And the
and
sides,
I was able just to hit the exactly.
yeah,
So that way you don't get, you know, preachy all over your seams
yeah.
and all that stuff. And then even pressing it, you know, one thing that I suggest, because let's say you take that little that 4T shirt into a press, guess what? You're gonna have to press all the seams and all that
Seams.
stuff. Stalls actually
I have
sells,
stars.
you know,
Not to
small.
cut you off. I have the stars
Perfect.
with changeable pattern, so I'm good with that.
Perfect. You know,
Yeah.
so that really helps out when you're dealing with these little things. So Stalls actually sells interchangeable plans. So the bottom plan where you lay your shirt, you're actually able to pull that out, and they have smaller. So you know, that's that way when you're doing kid shirt, you're not having to press the seams, which leaves a mark on there.
Mark on it,
And it goes away, but still, you know, you don't want to be turning in shirts with those type of marks on there. So little extra attachments that, you know, really help you give you a nice finish, you know, to your shirt, and having to avoid those little extra things. So check those out from Stalls. There's a whole bunch of ones, those circle ones, smaller ones. There's even one for the sleeve. You know, if you're ever doing long sleeves and you have just a regular huge platen, you have to lay down the whole sleeve on there. Stalls actually has a long, narrow one that you can just slide the whole sleeve in, and you don't have to be pressing both the front and the top. So I encourage you guys to check those out. If you guys are, you know, having issues with pressing, you know, these shirts because they're too small, check out these interchangeable plans from Stalls. They really come in handy.
Okay. Any webinar discounts after the show? Because I definitely need to get one of those.
You're getting a little ahead of us, Nathaniel. We're gonna get there, baby. Let's go. Hey, by the way, is that your son over there in the background?
Yeah, that's my assistant right here.
All right, what's his name?
Nathaniel too.
Awesome. Tell him nice to meet him. Looking forward to seeing him printing in a few years.
That's right.
All right, guys. Thanks for being on. Victor Rubio, sir, you are ready to go.
Hey there.
How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks.
Hey, so I guess with the platens, the really important part is, and maybe you could share with others and what the best practices are, but you know, the more rectangular your design is, the less wiggle room you have in terms of aligning that design on the shirt. So I mean, you showed the platens, but you know, if you had a shirt with you, what's your best approach outside of just practice and experience of aligning that shirt so that it's super straight and the design is straight across the neck as opposed to slightly tilted?
Yeah.
Once you're done.
Yeah, and real quick, just what Victor's referred to, and I'm sure customers have run into this. You know, let's say you're just printing a big square image. You know, you take it off the press or the plan, and then you realize, you know, it's a little bit, you know, slanted, and it'll be like he said, it's the most noticeable when you have square images. You know, anything that has a straight edge line across, you know, you'll start to see things start to look good. So, you know, besides, you know, the practice, one of the things that I'll always use is actually, I don't have a hoodie here, but is like, the reference points to everything, the seams. I always grab the seams and I check how far down they're going on each side. It's kind of one of the tricks that I do is I check, make sure the seam is going down. If it's a huge hoodie or a huge shirt, I'll actually go as far as maybe even using the lines of the actual, printer. All this stuff is straight, so then I'm kind of able to guide it out. But for the most part, I always use the fabric. The fabrics, check how much you have on the side, make sure it's not crooked, make sure, you have on there. I've heard a lot of, different tricks that, I've heard throughout the years. I had one customer that would actually grab a shirt and fold it, in half, and then give it like a little 5-second press, and it created a line, directly down the middle. And that's how he was able to pretty much at the end, he had an actual visible, press line on here, and he was able to actually, maneuver it to a point, where it was nice and straight. That was one way that our customer, it worked for him every time. I, for the most part, always use, like I said, the fabric. Whenever I'm mounting it, I check the sides, make sure, it feels even. But in the end, yeah, it is a lot of practice. Even for me, even now, when I print my shirts, I gotta be extra careful still when I'm doing that stuff, because another thing is don't tuck it too much. Sometimes customers will go in there and just tuck almost all the fabric in there. You have to keep in mind you're stretching the fabric, so then once you move it back, everything's gonna go back, and then things aren't gonna be straight. It's gonna be all wavy, all wobbly. So try not to, go too much. I literally just put my fingertips in just enough to hold it, down. So, but it is practice in the end. It's not practice. It's just like screen printing. You see those guys just slap shirts on there super fast. It's just a lot of practice. But be extra careful, as I had mentioned, with those square graphics. That's when you'll be the most noticeable. And obviously you don't want to be turning in something crooked, to a customer. But use the fabric itself. A little trick I explained from that customer. I've never actually done that, but I thought it was a neat trick and it worked for him, very well. I had a customer that actually had notches on his platen that he created, and he was able to actually feel the center of these platens and stuff. A lot of different things, to kind of help you, center it. But in my opinion, at the end, it's really a lot of practice. After a while, you'll just see me throw it in there, slap it, and then get it in the nice straight. But even like I said, even for me, I've been doing it for 12 years. I'll even sometimes load it a little bit crooked. It kind of happens sometimes. But yeah, the notches, I saw some kind of those notches work. It was a little good one. It was actually one here on pretty much on every side, and I was able to actually feel, on there and say, okay, yep, there's a notch. It looks like it's down the center. So little extra things, but practice. That's really going to be a lot of practice just to get a nice shape. But after a couple, you'll see it comes natural. It'll be quick.
Awesome. Thank you, Edsel. And then thank you, Victor, for that. Hey, I'm going to read off a couple quick ones from the Q&A, just so we can make sure we get to some of those. So DRA says, what's your suggestion for printing on tanks? Use platens as well?
Yeah, so I do like to use the youth platen because the seams drop low. They drop low, and if you try to use the adult one, they'll start popping up in there. Unless you're doing like 3 or 4X ones, then you might be able to get away with the adult. But I would say definitely use the youth one for that one, and it'll help you, avoid those seams. I do a lot of tank tops, taught over here in California, so that happens a lot. And now I'm always using the youth platen for that, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. From Harim, what color garments require dark color media, and what color garments require color media?
All right, so there is for those of you that have a plus, you may not, you won't have this option, but the regular 330TX, when it originally came out, it took some time to get these profiles to get them where they're at now. This color media environment is a really old school way of printing. It's one of the oldest environments we have. And at that time, that's the one we kept using. Basically, with this, and I don't use color media. But basically what color media will do is, most of you guys will notice when you print your underbase, you have like a grayscale underbase. You know, there's areas where there's more white, there's areas where there's less. And it's designed like that because not all colors need that much white ink. For example, if I was going to print a really dark blue, I won't need that much white ink underneath it. But if I was printing a really bright yellow, I need white, you know, a lot of white ink underneath so that yellow can pop. So we developed these, our new, you know, these current environments to save you ink, you know, basically. But this color media or color environment that he's referring to, it basically will lay down a full white layer of white ink. You know, basically a full white silhouette of whatever you're printing. You know, so instead of doing that grayscale print, it just lays down just a huge layer of white ink. Now, one of the things with that is, you know, it's not necessary. You don't need that much white ink in under certain colors. So, you know, you're wasting more than you really need to. Also, the finish isn't as natural. You know, you don't get such a good feel to it because there's so much white ink in there. It ends up being really thick, you know, to the shirt, you know, to the feel. So color media is kind of the one that I probably use the least, or really not at all. Dark media is what you would use basically for any color besides black or white.
Cool. Hey guys, real quick as we transition to the next question, if you guys are having any sort of technical support needs, such as a printer, Juan, I see your question. Any sort of technical support needs, make sure that you go through support at omniprintonline.com and go ahead and submit your ticket into the system there. I just want to be clear. This we want to help you, and we will help you. And Serafine, our tech manager, is on this call here. He can see you guys writing in, but I want to make sure that we keep organized there, so we can stay focused here on the call. Okay, going into a few attendees here. Let's jump in with you, Asphalt. How you doing? Go ahead and unmute.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for being back.
It's nice to be back.
Of course.
Yeah, it's just as always said. I mean, it helps us a lot, and it's really great to have you guys. I don't have much question, but except a follow up with Edson, the email that I sent you last week, and I had an urgent job.
Yeah, I think I ended up seeing that, on there. One of the things, and just kind of let everybody know, I'll follow up with you real quick, but he was reporting some issues with just his wine not being as strong. One of the things I think might be good is, let's go over it. I think we can do is we can go over a print together, kind of see, what we need to do, and then make an adjustment, from there. So I did see the prints you had, they weren't, too bad, but I think with a little bit more adjustments, we should be able to get a really, a nice crisp print, out of the shirt. So let me, I'll email you here. We'll try to schedule something with me with the tech, and then just walk through it from beginning to the end until we get the nice bright print out of it.
Yeah, Asphalt. We want to get you taken care of there on that. So just if you can, Serafine will take note here as well to make sure that we get you followed up with and scheduled for a video call. All right, Sergio, you are up.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here.
So real quick, on the adult planting, when you're doing a pocket print, do you guys have a template, or can you show us that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, I can show you real quick. I believe we do have a little template, but I'll show you real quick on my work here. So let's just say we're going back to the adults. I usually keep my pocket sizes usually no bigger than 4 inches on the width. And what I'll do here is I like to move it to the top right. And then I generally drop it about 2 inches from the top. And that's basically where I land, the pocket area. Just the only thing with, printing it on the adult Platen is This specific one may work for, medium, large, even up to extra large. Once you go into 2X, 3X, those bigger ones, you have to remember that things get wider, so now, that pocket is going to be more over here, so once you start to do something like that, you almost have to place your shirt a little offset, right? Start scooting it over a little bit,
Right.
just moving it around because again, just because it gets wider. But this is usually what I usually do for about my medium, large, extra larges. Once I go into those bigger ones, just remember I usually offset the shirt a little bit, so that way it's still hitting in the correct area. But usually 2 inches from the top right corner is where I like to set it at. Again, if you have the smaller pocket one, you're always leaving it in the same spot.
Right.
But sometimes I do use the adult one, to print on the regular t-shirt pocket area.
Okay, so anything above the 2X and above. So this is good for extra small to XL, and then anything above that will, I have to offset it, correct?
Yeah, I would say for like medium to XL. Once you go into small, same thing. Remember, we're going wide as we go bigger, but as we go smaller, the chest is going in more. So
Okay.
just gotta keep that in mind. Once you go into smalls, extra smalls, you will have to, either scoot it in more or
Scoot it
offset
in,
your
right.
shirt. Exactly. Because as it gets bigger, smaller, the chest area
All right.
moves around.
So medium to XL, and then after that, adjust for the to compensate for the smaller, and then the 2XL and above.
Yep.
Thank you.
No
Hey,
problem.
you guys are wonderful. I'm learning. I've been having the DTG now for over a year and a half, I want to say, and I'm learning just by going to YouTube to you guys, and then on Facebook as well. So
Nice,
thanks a lot.
Nice.
This is very helpful.
You're welcome.
Our pleasure. Thanks for being here. All right. All right, crew, we're at the top of the hour. It's been 60 minutes. These 60 minutes go by way too fast every single time. So, but we will be here again next Wednesday at the same time. But before you go, I got a couple of things I want to talk to you about that are really important. One, Saturday, April 10th, we are doing another Creators Business Bootcamp, the spring edition, what should we call it? How many of you actually went to the last one in December? Hit me with the chat, or give me a thumbs up if you're on video. The one in December was amazing. We had Damon John there, the People Shark. We had a host of other speakers as well, and it was a vibrant time together. I mean, we had 6 or 7 hours of just straight live value content being delivered from speakers that are world renowned in their craft. And so we're doing another one on Saturday, April 10th, and it's going to be absolutely badass. We're going to have Jesse Itzler there. Do you guys know who Jesse Itzler is? Billionaire entrepreneur. I think the dude owns what's that Atlanta basketball team? People are gonna laugh at me, but I don't. Whatever the Atlanta NBA team is. Anyways, he's co-owner of that franchise, and he's just an all-around amazing person. So he's going to keynote for us and be around, deliver some value. Tim Story, who's a world-renowned life coach. Every major celebrity on the planet goes to him for life coaching and decision-making stuff. We're going to have him on, and then as of today, we just secured Brandon Dawson, the co-founder and CEO of Cardone Ventures, to give a keynote as well. And Nathaniel, I see you there. I mean, it sounds like you've heard him speak. The dude is amazing. So we've got a dynamic lineup of speakers. It is 100% free to attend. However, if you guys want to attend for free, that's fine. But if you want to engage with the speakers, if you want to ask Jesse Itzler questions or Brandon Dawson questions or Tim Story questions, people that you will not otherwise get a chance to just ask questions to and rap with, you can upgrade into a VIP experience. It's $97, but it'll be the best $97 you spend this year. I promise you that. The value that those guys deliver is absolutely amazing. And so I'm going to drop the link here in the chat. Click on that, register, just be there, be present. There's going to be a couple thousand people there. And we're going to bring the heat. I mean, we're investing heavy into this because we're excited to just, again, extend that value to you guys. So again, click on the link. I posted it in the chat. Register, upgrade to the VIP if you want to get that value, if you want to get access to these people and literally do live Q&A sessions with them, which again, you're not going to get anywhere else. And then I would love to have you there. Number two, so everybody who operates a print shop is cost conscious. Anybody who operates a business that's cost conscious. They want to save money, right? And chances are, if you're printing, you are purchasing your inks once a week, once a month, once every other month on some sort of cadence, right? And so I've talked about this in the past, but we introduced recently our subscribe and save feature for all ink, pre-treatment, and cleaner products. So if you're already buying every other week or every week or once a month or once every 2 months, sign up for that and you're going to save 10% on every single order. That means if your order on average is $1,000 and you're buying that once every 2 weeks or once a month, you're going to save $100 on that order. That's $1,000 a year. What could you do with an extra $1,000 per year in cash savings for you just by signing up to have something delivered straight to your door at whatever schedule you need? It's convenient, and you're going to save a grip of money, especially if you're ramping up your printing volume. And so that is live today at store.omniprintonline.com. And then I don't know, Edsel or Seraphine or Mauricio or somebody, whoever, if you guys can just post that link in the chat to our store so everybody here can get access to that. Just go whatever inks you buy, click the subscribe and save, add it to your cart, choose whatever frequency you want it delivered on, and it will be sent to you at the same time every time, and you're just going to save some cash. So that's my gift back to you guys. We're working our asses off over here to make sure that you guys have the best possible experience that you can't get anywhere else. So I hope you guys are getting value from this. We will be editing these down and putting them live on YouTube over time. But until then, love to have you back here next Wednesday. And if you're not here, you should be. And if you have employees, make sure they're here too. If you got other people operating your machines on your behalf, make sure that they are here every single week because they're going to connect with other FreeJet operators. But otherwise, y'all, it's been a blast. Thank you for being here and for showing up. If you're new, if this was your first session, please come back. We'd love to have you. And we'll talk to y'all soon.
Yeah.
Alrighty. See you guys.